Good morning. I can't hear anybody if things have started yet.
Good morning.
Oh, I heard that. Thank you.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call, Jen.
Shelley Fine,
Ginny Hep.
Anita Matt, Sharmel Gillen. And Tunis Quilty. Fred Matt,
I'm here.
Carol Langford, Len Tooties,
I'm here.
Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy,
Present.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dawson,
I'm here.
James Still Senior.
Sorry, Ellie, I couldn't get to my mute, but I'm here.
Len, could you lead us in prayer this morning, please?
Did you say Len?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. Grandfather, today we give thanks for the beautiful day you've given us. We're so grateful for the gathering that we're able to do here twice a week for the people. Once again, I pray for all of the people that have just recently lost loved ones. Today, I ask that you be with us and help us make the best decisions for the people. And I ask you all these things in the Creator's name, amen.
Thank you, Len. We have a set of minutes from May 27th.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Martin.
on page number 7 in my statement, um, about with the walking path, could I put walking paths in St. Ignatius and Arlee? And then can I put, in the next sentence about our buildings, can I just have it be, or the next sentence after that where it says our building, can I just pluralize both of those? Thank you. Madam Chair, motion to approve the minutes from 25th of May.
Okay, we have a motion by Martin,
Second.
second by Ellie. Any other changes? Pardon? She raised her hand first. If not, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, we have an agenda for today. No walk-ins. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, Bing has something.
Madam Chair, I have something.
Fred, did you have something?
Yeah, for me, it's just a reminder of, I'll be leaving here in a little bit for a service, but I wanted to mention something about that.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Ellie, second by Fred. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Go ahead, Fred, you can go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention, I was asked to help with a funeral, a memorial service today. And the individual who passed away, like many of those during COVID, Jerry Rulier was one of those individuals who, because of COVID, couldn't have a normal service. And if you don't know who that is Ernestine Ducheneau's sister. And she was a very prominent member of our parish here in Mission. So we're finally having her service today. And just want to let you know she's a tribal member and respected, obviously, like all of them. And just wanted to mention that. So.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Carol?
I'm good, Madam Chair.
Bing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Um, This past weekend, with the graduation and what all that was going on in RLE this weekend, we had a lot of visitors from out of town, and some of the powwow committee members were at the dinner, and they were talking, and they would ask me to ask the council if there would be a chance for them to have memorial services at the powwow grounds for those that passed away in the last 2 years. And they said that they go ahead and they would have a dinner for the people. She said, they said because, just to honor those that we have lost in the last couple of years, and I'm sure that's going to be quite a number. They're going to contact Tony this morning and talk to him and see if he'll give his approval to do that memorial on the 4th of July. But they have a pretty good plan on what they want to do, with this memorial that they ask about. And, with some of the, they were at the memorial up at the church and already up there for the service and whatnot, but they talked about it in memorial about it yesterday, and after the services for Memorial Day, they came and talked to me again. But to me, it sounds real good to have something like that. And last year you had people even asking if they could go down to the powwow grounds and set up camp just because if it was the 4th of July, and they done that for years, and I really believe it myself, it would be a good deal for them to go ahead and have this memorial for the people. Maybe afterwards, they said if everything turned out, they could have a traditional I had it like what it's called. Anyway, the stick game, for that they have with material stick game they have afterwards, and just have the people, after that, kind of celebrate a little bit their traditional ways that they haven't been able to do in the last couple of years. So I would like to say I was asked to bring it up to the council this morning and get the feelings, I guess, about what they have to think about it. But, overall, I really believe that, and with mass situation, even here in the council, not being used here, and a lot of our people I know has been vaccinated. So I think it would be a pretty good deal to have for the members, so they can celebrate their losses, of the people that we've had over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bing. Were they going to submit a plan, or how did they want to proceed with that?
I believe that after what Tony's, got to say, then they'll go ahead and do that. But they want to get approval from Tony first, before they don't want to go and step on anybody's toes, because that's pretty much Tony's deal, every year, and so they're going to talk with him, like I said, this morning about it, and I guess we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think we probably have to check with John Nice and see what, if anything, has been done on those bathrooms to make sure that there's proper facilities. Otherwise, they might have to rent porta potties or whatever. But I'm not sure where they are on their facilities upgrades. So, Martin?
Madam Chair, I feel like I think this is a good idea. This has been something that I've been thinking about since we kind of started coming out of this, and there were other families that asked about the same thing, even just going down there themselves and setting up and drumming with their own families. We just allowed one of our tribal schools to use the facilities for a graduation, and so I feel like we are kind of going in that direction. I keep bringing up the races here that we have in Pablo that are getting bigger and bigger, and those are held on tribal property. So I feel like this is definitely something that I would support. I feel like it'd be a good first step in kind of realizing the loss that we've had over the last 2 years and the fact that we haven't been able to grieve and mourn the way that we normally do. And that memorial is something that, I don't care how long your family members have been gone. It's something that really, really hits you hard when you go and participate. And so, I think that this is a really good idea. I think that we should probably try to expedite any decisions that are made outside of us, and any, I encourage tribal health to weigh in on this as well. But I feel like there's a way we could do it safely. And since we're doing everything kind of streaming, we could even stream this for the people that can't be there or shouldn't be there because of health reasons. So thank you. And thanks, Bing, for bringing this up.
Anyone else? So I guess we'll wait to hear from the committee as to what they're working with Tony, what his decision is. Okay. All right, Carol?
Okay, Madam Chair, I got a request from Hobart Hunter that his brother's roof fell in, and I think they're trying to do everything they can to repair it. But I'm wondering if somebody from the elders program could check in on him and make sure it's being done. Because I know the guy, he won't ask for help, and maybe that's maybe he doesn't need help, but it'd be nice to have somebody check on him.
Sorry, what was the name again?
Kenny Hunter in Camas Prairie. It's his house and his roof.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mike.
I haven't spoken with Kenny, but I saw a major crew there and there's quite a roof going on. So I know something is happening.
Thank you, Mike.
Madam Chair, I think that family was trying to go up and help him. I had understood that he was either over income or whatever the problem was, but it needs to be looked at by the elders program.
Fred?
Yes, Madam Chair. Again, this is one of those, his wife teaches school and they're taking care of kids as well. Foster, well, I don't know if it's foster kids, but grandkids anyway. And it's just one of those things that's probably just barely over the income. This is what's frustrating in a lot of these cases is, these families are trying to make ends meet and just barely are over the income. So I'm glad Carol brought it up. So, thanks.
All right, we'll have someone follow up on that. Thank you. Okay, with that, we can move on to our council updates. Bing, did you want to go over the bison hunt? meeting?
Because I left my notes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, last Tuesday and Wednesday, I attended a bicing meeting with Tom McDonald and John Harrison and Dan McClure in Missoula. And first day we were there, where there was 5 tribes that showed up to the meeting just to get a kind of a feeling on what they were going to meet on Wednesday. Wednesday came about and 9 tribes showed up for the meeting, and that's the most I've ever seen at this meeting, you know. And we had Arapaho and Blackfeet and also the Crows show up this year for the first time, and you know, they talked a lot about their MOU that the IBMP has in existence, and they were kind of a little bit taken, I guess, a little bit about it because of their treaties and whatnot. But overall, it was a good meeting, a real good meeting, because everybody, you know, they're going to go back and talk about this issue with the MOU. But we also had the Fish, Wildlife and Parks there, Park Service from Yellowstone, and also the livestock people that were there. So overall, there was 12 different agencies at this meeting, and like I stated, it was probably one of the bigger ones that I've ever been to in that I've attended. I've got another meeting coming up in July. This will be held in Lapway, and I think it's on the 23rd, I believe, it's that weekend, and 23rd of July. But and we're going to have to go down there for the meeting down there because Nez wanted to host it down there. But like I stated, it was a great meeting, a real great meeting with all them tribes there, and a lot of input, you know, from the Blackfeet. They had 5 council representatives there, along with Buzz Cobell, who is head of the Natural Resource Department. And they had quite a contingency there representing the tribe. But it was, like stated, it was a good meeting, you know, and there was no hard feelings there for anybody. They listened to what had to be said, you know, and our people, Tom and John, did an excellent job of reporting on what they had to say, you know, and comment on, and did a real good job up there. And I thank them for doing that. But yeah, it was a good meeting, and hopefully the next meeting we go to will be exactly like this one. So thank you.
Thank you, Bing. So I just wanted to give a brief update on the AT&I mid-year conference that I attended. I was only able to attend on Wednesday because the other 2 days were council days, but I did send you all the PowerPoint that Brian Gunn sent from Powers, Piles, Sutter, and Verville. I don't know if that's how you say it. They're basically attorneys, an attorney group, but Brian gave a legislative and policy update that I emailed to you, just talking about where we are in this Congress. Democrats control the House with a 219 to 211 majority, and there are 5 vacancies. In the Senate, it's 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and Vice President Harris cast a tie-breaking vote. I'm just tongue-tied this morning. Fiscal year 2022 appropriations are underway. The American Rescue Plan Act is underway. CSKT has received their first tranche of $39 million. based on our enrollment data, which is different than the CARES Act funding, which was the NAHASDA formula, which the administration got a lot of criticism over and even a couple lawsuits. So this 20 billion in recovery funds was designated in a lot of different areas, IHS, BIA. It's like the biggest infusion that all these agencies have got. So a lot of this year is going to be spent planning towards that. There's also some key deadlines coming up. One is the Paycheck Protection Program. That's June 30th. He talked about the House Committee for Indian Affairs and Policy. So the biggest committee or that has, you know, the most things going on in Indian country this year is the Committee on Natural Resources. And Raul Grabala from Arizona is the chairman of that. And so they have, the Natural Resources Committee has primary jurisdiction over public lands, natural resources, and Indian territories. The Senate Committee on Indian Affairs is, the chair of that is Brian Schatz from Hawaii, and Lisa Murkowski is the vice chair. There's not really a lot of legislation in that area right now. There are 3 bills that they mentioned that Indian country needs to watch out for is Protecting Indian Tribes from Scams Act. That's a House bill which passed in April. There's the Western Tribal Water Infrastructure Act and the Native American Child Protection Act. The big news, and then the next presenter was Brian Newland is a nominee for the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs. He's currently the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. He's a former chairman of the Bay Mills Indian community, and he worked during the Obama administration. And his hearing is set for, I think it's mid-June. So those are the main points that came up. Raina Thiel talked about the 30 by 30 initiative that President Biden did. And then we heard from Brian Mercier from our regional office. The last thing that I got to watch was the state legislative reports. And Jordan Thompson, our lobbyist, gave the Montana report. And there were reports from Oregon, Idaho, Alaska, and Washington. So after listening to them, the other states, it kind of sounded like Montana was the wild, wild west. So, and we all know that from firsthand experience. So Jordan did a really good job for us. The one big resolution that came out of AT&I that will go on to NCAI in a couple weeks was the support for the Simpson proposal, which is basically take down those lower 4 Snake River dams. So that was the big happening at AT&I this year. So with that, do you have forestry ready, Jen?
Was she gonna do those appointment letters on pages 2 to 4?
So in our packet, we have, let's see, page 2. you have letters?
Letters, I don't have the letters yet. You were just going to talk about the appointments, see if they wanted the appointments, and then I'd have the letters ready. Because I don't know who's going to get the appointment on that second one that you sent me yesterday for the Missoula.
No, for the first one, the Invasive Species Council, that was Martin.
We have that letter. It was just, I thought you guys were just going to talk about the appointments. Because of that Missoula one was the first one that time I was.
Are you still interested in serving on that, Martin?
Yeah, I am. I've been serving on that and been pretty active, so, and I have stickers for you guys, by the way.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to continue Martin's appointment on the Montana Invasive Species Council. Okay, motion by Bing, second by Charmel. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Martin abstains. Okay, and so we'll get that letter signed. And the next one is Dave Strohmeyer from Missoula County Commissioners sent us a formal invitation for a CSKT representative to serve as ex officio board member of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. And their next board meeting is on June 9th. So right now they have representatives from 13 counties, and they've been asking for our participation on that.
Madam Chair, I'd be willing to, or actually pretty interested in that. I've always thought the rail line should run through here. Well, I guess it'd be south of us, but
Okay. So we have Martin volunteering to do that. Can we do that by motion? Motion by Ellie to appoint Martin to that Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, second by Bing. All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
Carol, did you say abstained?
No, I'm in favor, Madam Chair.
Okay. Martin abstains, motion carries, and Bing just volunteered to be the alternate. So Jen, if you could prepare a letter. Okay, thank you guys for volunteering. Next meeting is June 9th. Okay. Okay. Okay, next up we have Forestry. Their information starts on page 5 in the packet. Hesquex, Tony.
Esquex Council. Yeah, starts on page 5. I think Todd or Ron is on. Yeah, it looks like Todd's on. I'll let him go ahead and present this as the lead. Maybe. Todd, you there?
Yep, I was just unmuting everything and turning up my volume, so I didn't hear what you said.
So I was going to go ahead and let you present this with the request for the recreational permit.
Okay, yeah, just looking at training this Saturday, June 5th with the DNRC and local fire departments. Just looking at getting their permits waived since it's a cooperative training that we have with them yearly, and just to kind of get out of our element of sitting in conference rooms. We're looking at going out to the Sloan's Bridge area and working on just getting ready for the fire season. So looking like they're going to bring a helicopter in just to be able to work with the fire departments and the tribe, just so we can get a face-to-face with each other, and looking at about a day out there, and worked with talked with Lands and Natural Resources on any concerns that we would have, or that they would have of us using that area. And Mark had talked about the area being a good area to use. During the summer, we use that area quite a bit when we have fires out in that area. So with the helicopter and staging area. So yeah, we were just looking for authorization from the tribal council to use that with fire departments and DNRC.
So it's a good training. It's something we kind of do similar with the smoke jumpers. They want to familiarize with equipment, with the lands. We'll bring the helicopter, come in, fire departments will get familiar with the helicopter, be able to learn how to work around it, what its capabilities are. Land's only suggestion was to make sure the vehicles and equipment were washed prior to entering the area to prevent any weed spread. The recreation department was concerned with people floating the river or around that Sloan's Bridge area. We showed them a map. We'll be kind of west of Sloan's Bridge there, so we won't be below it where a lot of people float from. So with coordination with them, they seem to be okay with it.
Madam Chair,
Anita?
how many people are normally involved with this, Tony and Todd?
So, hey, this is Ron Swaney. It all depends, you know, sometimes we get close to 15 folks, all representing different rural fire departments around Lake County. It all depends on what they've got going for that weekend and so forth. The state of Montana provides the aircraft, the helicopter, and that helicopter will come staffed with 4 individuals. And then the state of Montana will also have other people involved to provide guidance. It'll be Jeremy Priest, who runs the Northwest Land Office. And there's a gentleman by the name of Sean Morgan that works out of Polson. He's the state rep out of Polson and works closely with us with the rural fire departments. So right now it's hard to say. We will have a representative on scene. We will cover our dispatch office with an aviation dispatcher to help support the aviation work. It will not be an all-day event. Typically they come in, get oriented with the aircraft, do a few bucket drops with the aircraft, direct, you know, the aircraft in, and it does pay off for us. You know, a lot of times when we get very high to extreme fire danger, our helicopter is the first thing out of the gate, and these rural fire departments respond quickly as well. So they will at times be working with our aircraft, doing bucket work before our folks can get on scene.
So it's a one-day training. What was the date?
The training will be on June 5th.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make the motion to approve the request for the one-day training. And I just want to ask that every participant be provided with the recreation permit requirement information so that they're fully aware that if they return on any other date that they're required to hold a permit. Thank you.
Motion by Charmel, second by Mike. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Ellie abstains. Motion carries.
Lunch, Council. I think that's all we had for you today. So thank you.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Madam Chair, just for the record, can you show my abstention due to my involvement with the St. Ignatius Volunteer Fire Department, please?
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Salish Kootenai Housing Authority. Jody Perez, information starts on page 6 in our packet.
Good morning. I have Colleen Tennis here with me also. She has been promoted to the Housing Resource Manager, and that was filling in for Katie Miller's vacancy. And so she's here with me today, and we are presenting a resolution that authorizes the Housing Authority to apply for and administer the homeowner assistance fund. And this will be, I'm estimating, between $4 and $5 million. And it's like the emergency rental assistance program, but it's for homeowners.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Len.
Jody, and I missed part of your presentation, but does this apply to the tribal members that live off the reservation?
We have not determined the exact eligibility requirements for this. It's not defined in the regulations, and so we will be able to make a determination as the program progresses.
Okay. All right. I just mentioned that because I had a few tribal members that weren't living on the reservation, trying to find some programs that they can access. So, so I hope you guys can consider that. Thanks, Jody.
If we don't offer it past our boundaries, they could apply with the state. So the state of Montana, or whichever state they live in, is receiving this exact same funding, and they will be administering it to residents in their state.
Any other questions? Okay, motion by Ellie to approve the resolution. Second by Martin. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous.
All right, thank you guys. We'll be in touch as the program comes together. There's a lot of requirements in order to receive the funding. We'll get 10% once we apply, and then we need to do a homeowner assessment of needs, and a lot more. There's hurdles to jump over before we can start the full program.
Okay, well, congratulations to Colleen Tennis. And I have a question, Jody. Who is administering the rent assistance program for Skaha?
So that falls under Colleen's department, and the contact person is Glenda Pierre. She's the one who's doing all the initial application stuff, and we just hired William Monroe to help with that program also. And then Michelle Morjo is also helping with the program, and she's doing all the PRs and everything for that. So Glenda Pierre is the first contact.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have our communications policy discussion with Rob. That starts on page 9 in our packet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's also an ask, which I'll explain in more detail as we get into the policy discussion. The ask is about adding a Twitter account to give my office another tool to communicate information out about the doings of council and key things at the tribes. So I'm asking for the creation of a formal CSKT Council Twitter account.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the approval or to approve the setup of a Twitter account? Motion by Charmel.
Second.
Second by Anita. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, Counsel. And that's a great sentiment to be communicated to my office on the importance of getting more information out there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit in setting up this discussion about some of the conversations that have been having concerning communications in the executive office with the executive officer. I am approaching this from the standpoint of there is a set and pushed need for more communication, that there's an effort for more transparency, and an effort for the populace to be more informed of the day-to-day doings, the big issues, and whatnot. It's been broken down into a couple different ways. One is council communicating to the membership. That's kind of a focus I'm looking at. This can be done with more insight into the council meetings and topics, and to help with that. Most recently, in the past couple weeks, we've set up a Facebook page, which was in place thanks to Councilman Charlo. We have created a page that repeats that and duplicates that, but also adds a YouTube streaming so that people who didn't have a Facebook account or didn't like Facebook can now tune into the meetings live or after the fact on YouTube. And that capacity helps us share it better. I believe this week, or maybe even today, IT was going to have the meetings of council stream on the CSKT.org website. So it'll be very easy for you to direct people to find the meetings, to see them, to tune in. Last week, for instance, I saw a Facebook discussion about a Charcusta article about council setting priorities on the ARP funds. And someone was questioning, what will council do? And I was able to send that person a message saying, the discussion is happening now. Feel free to tune in. You can see our leadership tackling an important topic right in front of your eyes. And thanked me and went right to it. And so I am starting to see early positive signs of this, just a little bit of effort paying off greatly, which is good to see. One of the other efforts that has been been launched is what I call council dispatches. Now, the official communication of council is and will remain the council minutes. And that does take a little time to go through the system before it appears online. And then even after that, in print, for those who like to read in print in the Charcusta. I know my parents prefer it in the paper, large paper version, rather than printing it out or reading a PDF online. But we started something called council dispatches, which is going through the minutes right after the meeting, focusing on actions that were taken by council, and just writing a few lines, characterizing the discussion, characterizing the topic, and giving people a good idea of the range of things, and minor things that may not have come to their notice. NRD got permission to purchase an ice machine for Blue Bay to enhance service there. That was mentioned. There were two minor sales, smaller sales for Forestry that were about to go to bid. This gave notice of that. There was a story about a study that researchers wanted to do concerning bee populations in Elmo and Dixon. And the discussion, I don't think, would have ever really made the Charcusta or really stood out any other way. But the discussion was from council to the researchers, will you kill the bees? Because that's a common practice. Will you euthanize your study subjects, the bees? And in this case, knowing the tribe's stance on being concerned about that, the researchers devised a way to capture the bees, keep them alive, photograph them, and then release them alive. That kind of detail I found really interesting and was in one of the dispatches and went out. It also, one item referred to the deep discussion on planning and how council will determine priorities for the ARP. And it was a lengthy discussion, and I simply characterized it that this is a detailed discussion that went on for a while. The full content will be in the official minutes when they come out. So in a way, it's kind of commentary without any attempt to, with every attempt to be neutral, of just saying, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, look for this in the minutes if you want more detail. So far, that's been received well, but we're still kind of in the pilot phase of watching that as it goes out. As we proceed on this communication endeavor, the goal, of course, is to start hashing out fodder for a plan and defining things that we kind of take for granted that happen without, just because they happen, but we're trying to formalize some of these processes. And like the rings in the tree, each year that goes by, we're going to get better and better with these. But I did want to kind of plant a seed for a future discussion in an effort to determine topics and information that council can help determine what should get more attention, what should be explained in more detail and broken down to the membership. I do think the minutes are a great gateway into issues that are important, but I think if you took a 2-week sample of council minutes, there would still be topics that didn't come up in council, but are definitely tentpole issues that are definitely worth educating the public about. And that's where I start pulling in the need for guidance of council. And let me talk about that for a minute to kind of give you an idea what I'm talking about. I guess one way to say it is, what do you desire or wish that the people knew more about? And each of you probably holds 2 to 10 topics you would love people to know more about. And if we start organizing those and gathering those, that would help direct my office into putting, what hours a day I can to forming that and delivering that. For instance, kind of get the ball rolling. Council's going through a priority setting. Is that an arena that deserves to kind of zoom in on or blow up for more information? There are the finances of the tribe, which as an employee, sometimes I struggle to understand the streams and the accounts, and I'm well aware of my small world and the account that I control and pay bills, and sometimes have a bit of income come in through for my efforts. But do we explain that? Is that something we should consider? This one I would greatly need council's input on this, but the corporations, EKI, SNK Technologies, electronics, gaming, they do report directly to council. Like EKI's meeting happened last week, I know, but of that, is that, where is the line, I guess, on what should be communicated? Should that be a directive from council to the corporation to conduct that sort of effort themselves, or should it come through the communication office? It's kind of a ripe discussion on where does that line fall? How do we define this and move forward? So with that, I'll kind of end my setup and curious if any topics jump out at this point, or any feedback at all on any of these points I've covered on kind of our early efforts of starting to hash out the communication plan.
Ellie?
Rob, one thing that just comes to mind now is maybe like a resource corner or something where each week you could highlight a program, say Elder Services, that talks about all of the resources that are available to members another week, or even if it were monthly or something, but you could highlight departments so that people were aware of resources. I know sometimes people think they don't qualify for things, or there's more services provided in departments than most people are aware of. So it might be a nice way to highlight some of those.
I think a burning question is the ARP funds. I heard conversations this weekend about, the tribe should do this, the tribe should do that. But, with that funding, there are strings attached. And, this, as I mentioned this morning, this is a huge infusion of resources into tribal economies, Indian Health Service, BIA. And so, a big part of this is our responsibility to determine how to provide those long-lasting resources, through the government departments that we have set up. So I think, for now, I think a weekly update on the ARP would be good. We started our priority setting last week, and that meeting is available online if people want to look at our discussion. But I heard a lot of talk about what the tribe should do, or what the people want. But there's a 160-page document that tells what we can actually do with that money. So I think that's important for the membership to understand, that it's not, we can't just divide it up between 8,000 tribal members and hand it out. That's not what the interim final rule says. So I think a weekly update on that would be good. Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think those are great things to discuss, Rob. Thanks for bringing them up. I agree. I think as much as we want to over communicate things or adequately communicate things, it's just, difficult to catch everything. And I think, with the reorganization, this is an opportunity, and you're stepping up nicely in this opportunity. I appreciate that. I think that the use of a position like the chief of staff and our policy analyst position, if that still exists in the future, or however it transforms, if it's retitled, I don't know what's happening there exactly, but I'm really hopeful that we will have the kind of planning discussions and policy discussions that can be easily communicated to keep everybody up to speed on how we're going through these deliberations. And so reporting on, like what the chairwoman just referenced, was, how we are trying to identify the actual long-term need that would help the situation for tribal members, kind of the dialogue, I guess, a little bit of the backstory, whatever we can share would be really good. And I think the chief of staff position and others in those areas probably could be really helpful in creating that dialogue for the council to review and put out. And as far as the corporations, I really agree, Rob, that there can be more reporting to the membership. We get the minutes of the board meetings, but largely those don't go out. And I think there's an annual report that's made, and there's limited amount of information there. But I wonder if it would be helpful for the board of directors for each of those corporations, I guess, to make a narrative, a quarterly narrative that can come through the shareholder and put out through communications. There was some good information, for example, at that last meeting we had with EKI, just, with regard to the energy risk management plan and the developments going on there. And I don't think a lot of that is proprietary. There's a lot of good stuff that I think the boards can decide what might be helpful to communicate. But I know the membership has a lot of interest in understanding that better. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Chair,
Martin?
I think in these times, we need a lot more information going out there on the checks and balances that our finance department does internally, and then also about the audit that comes, because when council, or I guess the tribe, gets a lot of money, there are always accusations, I apologize, about misappropriation of funds or council lining their pockets, and it's just not true. We have an audit every year. Each department's audited every month, pretty much, with their certs. That process, I think, is very, we don't have to get into detail, but I think if we did provide an overview, that would alleviate a lot of these people out there that are either ignorant to the issues or ignorant of our process here. And maybe that would stop them from spreading misinformation. So I think the more information about our organization, the better. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Anita?
I think as we roll out the ordinances and the policies and the codes that we're working on, to have Rob put out, a short summary of what the changes may be, and to be the public to be looking forward to them as well on what the changes could be, that would help too. And that they'll follow and be in the TAPO.
Yeah, and I think the TAPO itself is important to understand. It's important for the membership to understand that this is their public review process opportunity. Another huge thing is our water compact. We can never provide too much information on that. This weekend, I got a lot of questions about, balancing the irrigators' issues or the irrigators' need for water with in-stream flows, and how that works in a low water year, such as what we're experiencing right now. So I think there's work that we need to do internally, communicating with the flooded irrigation project staff. But we as council need to understand it ourselves, as well as secretarial water rights. That's something that keeps coming up. And I think for myself, I need a refresher on secretarial water rights 101. I don't know about anyone else. Charmel?
I think another area that seems to be regularly of concern is the way that we're using tribal lands, just more information maybe about different new uses or development ideas that are in the works and things like that. I think the membership benefits the more they know about some of the planning that's going on or some of the actual land uses that are going on. As we, try to gain more land base, I think the membership would like to know how we're putting that either into our inventory or production or whatever. Thank you.
Do you have any more leading questions for us, Rob?
The water compact is definitely so big. I mean, for 15 years, I've been a student of it, and I can still find areas I struggle to explain. And now that the compact is passed, I do think it's when council provides input on what they're hearing as big question areas, I think that's incredibly useful. So I want to keep that in the forefront. I also wanted to make sure our executive officer had a chance to make a suggestion. These discussions are, of course, guided through his office. He was there.
I'm still here, Rob. Yeah, good morning, council. Thanks for the feedback. I think this is really helpful. One of the things that I think I would ask you to think about as we're kind of digesting this and prepping for the next discussion. Ultimately, the goal of this would be creating a council approved communications policy for the government to tie into things like TAPO and other policies and ordinances that we have currently in existence that that address communication to the public. But one of the things that a few people touched on are kind of ongoing things. Ellie, you mentioned it'd be nice to have a kind of a routine piece on tribal services that we offer, and I think that is a really good thing for us to take in terms of developing a policy, because and I'm providing this context and in the hopes that it'll stimulate council, not for today's discussion, but for the upcoming ones, on what are the routinely misinformed areas of the membership or the public in general that that cause either confusion, and it could be things like, am I eligible for this program, or do we even still have this program? But I think it would be good as we develop a policy to kind of future-proof it as much as we can, so that the communications staff and all of the departments and programs, we can start to build in this habit and expectation of what and when and how often things need to be communicated to the general public. So topical things are great, but because I have a finance background, one of the things that has come up frequently since I've been in the tribe, so almost 3 years now, is how do we communicate, how, or more appropriately, what do we communicate in terms of our finances? And that seems a simple question, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, because tribal governments in general are exempted from a lot of the public facing communication aspects, and for generally good reasons that, you know, if we don't have to share, I guess it's our choice, because as a sovereign nation, we don't have to comply with certain types of public information rules. But it keeps coming up. Finances in particular keep coming up. I think clarity into the deliberation process is that's key. I think we'll have to digest and probably come back with some more questions on how exactly does that look. more importantly, are there specific instances or milestones within planning processes that that we do an in-depth overview of what the questions in front of council are. And then I also think that the idea of public comment, it's actually something that Rob and I discussed just before this meeting, is an important one for consideration. The TAPO ordinance does address public comment in certain situations, but it doesn't address a lot of the things that we're talking about. So strategic planning at the council level isn't necessarily, in fact, I think it's specifically excluded from TAPO. And that doesn't mean it's not something worth communicating, but it means that we don't have that framework for when and how public comment should be incorporated. And so I think your thoughts on what that looks like would be very beneficial the next time we reconvene on this topic, because it just in the last month or so, as we've rolled out the reorganization, a lot of the comments that I've heard are, and it's not a large number of people making those comments, but it might be representative of the membership as a whole, that not understanding or not being able to have a voice in certain decisions is important. But I think understanding which of those decisions require public comment or that council desires to have public input on, and when, is going to be a big question that would be beneficial to answer for long term. And ultimately, if we can capture that and codify it in some way, then our staff across the organization can have a target to shoot for as we're deliberating things and evaluating how we deliver and provide services. And that's going to be a huge undertaking over the next 6 months to forever, I think. And so making sure that we're doing that in a way that honors the membership's role in the government and council's desire is going to be important. And knowing first and foremost where council wants that to start is going to be incredibly helpful for us. Other than that, I've taken note of everything that has been said and appreciate your input. And I'm not sure if Rob has anything else, or if Ryan has any other thoughts, but I'm interested to keep hearing your thoughts and feedback.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Something just came to mind when I was listening to you talk about that, the public comment and the just the interaction or what's important to share. And it made me think about, the reorganization and some of the things that we have yet to possibly discuss. And that is, with regard to the basically the cultural relevance and the importance of those guiding those guiding advisors, I guess. And I was wondering, is it possible to pursue maybe a regular piece in the Charcusta and whatever other venues? This is kind of like what would be a part of what I would hope we could develop a communications plan that we can look at regularly. But one thing that I'd like to find out if we can do is get some historical and current and historical, I guess, pieces from the elder advisor committees and the records of our, like the archived records at the culture committees that kind of help us keep in mind the framework of our pre-contact government, our way of guiding and advising decision makers. I think we all need that. I think we all need to kind of be able to keep in mind some of that so that we can be responsive, I guess, in that context. Does that make sense to you, Rick?
It does, Sharmel, and I'm actually scheduled to meet with Clayton and Vernon and Tony Thursday to kind of talk about how to bring the elder culture committee groups into council deliberation process a little bit more formally and more routinely. And I think that I hadn't thought about it in a communications policy sense, but it does, I think, lend itself to that. One of the ideas, I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of that discussion, but we are evaluating ways to bring those voices into council in a kind of routine, meaningful advisory role on more than just, hey, we have this project. Do you have any comments? But kind of helping to move that advisory capacity where it makes sense ahead of the decision-making process, if you will. So I do think it's an important consideration, and we're working on it after Thursday's meeting. Actually, the next time we have this communications discussion, hopefully we'll have a better possible path for council to consider.
Rob?
In responding to Councilwoman Gillen's statement, thank you for stating that so well. I think the Charcusta would be a welcome home to content from the committees, from their staff, and researchers. I think there's a wealth of info, and I know they have their own website and their own outlets and products that regularly come out of there. I would love to enrich the pages of the Charcusta with more of that on a regular basis. So I'm not sure what buttons, permissions, or nods I need to get that done, but I think stating it that way is a great start.
So Rob, as far as the comments that you've received, kind of our electronic suggestion box, is there groups of categories that you've noticed?
It hasn't really revealed a pattern at this point. I think the folks are still kind of feeling it out and wondering about it. I mean, there was, they're all over the place, from concerns of 18 monies, resources to helping homeowners and training folks, to some general questions. They've mostly been polite and policy based, and I'll keep prodding and letting people know the opportunity. And I think they'll increase as we go, but as of yet, no real pattern.
So did that go out to CSKT employees, or is there the opportunity to do that on our website, cskt.org?
We initially started just sending it out to the everyone emails, and those do kind of informally circulate to a greater community than just the tribal membership, but primarily the tribal membership. But we could definitely get that posted on cskt.org. For those not in the tribal family, people find an email info@cskt.org that comes to me, which I have some relatives who want general information and don't want to bother me, so they write that line and they end up still sending the information to me to disseminate to the right department or whatnot. So we're kind of covered in that area, but we could float it more on social media, cskt.org. There's no reason why we could not.
Yeah, I think I would like to see it expanded out beyond the tribal employees, because I feel like because they work here, they know how to access council, but I'm not sure. And, of course, social media, people give you their opinion whether you want to hear it or not. But don't forget the Charcusta, because there are some people that's their only communication to the government is, that written word.
Absolutely.
Nah, I'm good.
Well, hearing the pause, I want to thank council for the approval on the Twitter account. I'll be consulting at times and we'll be kind of configuring our content to fit in the limited characters of Twitter. So we'll be in the Twitterverse here soon.
Okay, Martin has something?
Just on that point, I feel like Twitter is kind of it's a dying medium. So let's start looking at things that people are using like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn even. More platforms, the better, I believe. Thank you.
If I could respond, this was a team discussion, and I'm not really a Twitter individual. I pay attention a little bit, but it became very clear in our discussions that Twitter is embraced kind of by the power structure of the state and politics. We're best served when they know all the good things we're doing. And that was kind of the strategy of covering that. But I do think there is more to look at. I think Instagram's intriguing. The fact that I think the U.S. Marines is one of the most sophisticated users of Instagram and a governmental using it, not to mention universities. So as we enhance our capacity for video storytelling and more dynamic photos, we know we've identified some very skilled photographers in our tribal community. I think we're definitely heading that direction.
I'm sure.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. And just want to echo the comment Rob said and what Martin had said. The medium that we use, I think, is that's you might see a lot of activity in terms of requesting approval on different avenues of communicating, because each one hits a different niche. And as we try to get our message out to the appropriate constituents, that is something that we'll probably be seeing a lot more activity in the sense that if we're missing a group that we need to communicate something specific with, we're likely to be coming back with more requests. And obviously this is something that changes over time. Facebook is no longer the communications tool of the college student, and even though that's what it started out as. And so what next year's method of communicating will be, who knows, but we'll try to be on it.
Just don't get us kicked off, Rob.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
And with our reorg or restructuring, I mean, is this something that really we as a council should be making the decision on? I mean, I know that it still is, it's the social media policy, but is that something that you're looking at, Rick, to possibly change?
Well, yes and no. Not, I'm very aware that I don't want to get too far out in front of any of these processes, but the appropriate level of delegated decision-making authority, I think, is going to be a process that we will be in front of council with for quite a while. It will likely cover conversation topics such as, is this something that council should be approving or not? But in the avenue that we currently have, unless there has been a specific action, we're still assuming that council is the approval authority or the responsible body. That being said, I think the discussion around council roles that Jordan Thompson started, that's a really good question in the context of that overall discussion, because I don't know the answer to that. At least I don't want to insert my answer in place of yours. So I think it's good to think about it, and if that's the direction we want to go, we would be fully in support of whatever direction council wants, and if we get that direction, we will work hard to make sure we're enforcing it appropriately.
And I think also it's part of our overall communication strategy, that we identified as a priority during our planning session. So I think early on, we need to develop this strategy, communication strategy. And as we roll it out and kind of set those parameters, I think it will be, it'll roll out the way it does. Sharmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I want to continue to advocate for a communications plan, like an official tribal communications plan. And I brought this up a few years ago, and I really believe that it's something that the government with its executive team should continually and regularly review and approve, as, not just strategy. Well, it is strategy. It's a formalized strategy that keeps everybody kind of in the know and focused on the right things, and trying to forecast some of the issues and talk about effective communications to achieve some of the important things we need to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, let's take a break until our legal update at 10:45.
Rhonda, we're taking a quick break. We'll be with you in a few.
we'll call the meeting back to order. Legal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I hope Brian is on the line. I see that he is. He's going to start us out with an update on how we're getting money for the water compact.
Open session?
No, I don't think we need an executive session for this, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
We're staying in open session?
That's fine with me for this part anyway. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
All right. Well, I sent out an email over the weekend. I just wanted to announce to everyone that the president's budget, the sort of skinny budget overview, was released at the end of last week. And I'm pleased to report that the president proposed $25 million for additional funding for compact implementation for the upcoming budget cycle. So really good news from an appropriations perspective. This amount now will be considered by Congress. Congress has the ability to move that number up and down, up or down, I should say. But actually, obviously, coming out of the gate with a hard number proposed by the president is a very good sign, and we are, I think, significantly above where I expected we would be in terms of a budget request. Generally, Indian water settlements, usually there's a whole budget cycle before appropriation for request for a new Indian water settlement is proposed, and then historically they've only been in the like $10 million range. So not only are we coming out of the gate with appropriation request from the president immediately after our settlement was passed, but it's higher than has been the practice for Indian water settlements. So we're in a very good position moving forward. This budget request doesn't have any impact on the $90 million a year that will be coming in on the mandatory side. That'll still be there. This would be in addition to that. So obviously, just a small drop in the bucket in terms of seeing the overall $1 billion balance appropriated, but still a very good first step in our first year out, just being 8 months or so out from when the settlement passed. So we were extremely pleased by that. And you also heard from Brian, and I don't mean to steal his thunder on this, but the president's budget request also appears to include funding for deferred maintenance at the Bison Range. So very good news coming in this weekend on the president's budget side of things. Is there any questions about that?
Mike had a question. What can this money be used for?
So it'll have the same parameters as all the other federal funding under the water settlement. So it'll be eligible for activities under Section 7 relative to rehabilitation, restoration, and modernization of the project, as well as all the authorized uses under Section 8H, including compact implementation and all the rest. So there's no restrictions outside of what's already in the settlement for how the funds are used.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. I'll turn it back to Rhonda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'd like to hear from Chelsea now. She has an amendment to the compact, and it just cleans it up a little bit. It's a technical amendment. Chelsea?
Good morning, Council. This is Chelsea. Nice to see you. And as Rhonda said, I just have a short amendment to the Unitary Administration and Management Ordinance. This is the section that required the Water Management Board to give notice that this ordinance was going into effect. But there is some, even though it was a well-meaning section, some difficulty about when to send out the notice because the secretary hasn't officially signed. It's my understanding. And so And plus the Water Management Board is supposed to send out the notice, and that again, also, I don't think the board's been created yet. So it's a little bit of the intent was good, but because it's somewhat confusing on how to send out that notice, we recommend, and we checked with the state version, and the state has just reserved this section. And so we, as you'll see, this amendment just recommends reserving the same section in the tribal version of this ordinance so that the two match. And then, of course, well, not that this is, anyone is probably doesn't know yet that the water compact has passed, but certainly notice can be given, but it won't be constrained by this, the specific language in that section. So that is, if I can, would you like you to see it? I think it's in page 10 or 11 of your packet, but I also can share my screen if you would like to see it.
Screen share is available.
Would you like to see the amendment? Would that be helpful? I'll put it up there just in case so you can see it. But it just pretty simple. Reserve section 1103, which is the section that would give notice. And the reason is for it to match the state version. So if there are any questions, or I think this somewhat straightforward, we could just, I'll give you a moment to read it.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Martin.
Madam Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the amendment to the referenced ordinance.
Okay, motion by Martin. Second by Ellie. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. We have Carol, Fred, and Len that are out for the services. Thank you, Chelsea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now we'd like to hear from Stu. He has a letter to the to Canada. Stu.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Rhonda and Madam Chair. Good morning, Council. The letter that we got a letter on Sunday. It's actually proposed by a series of environmental groups, which haven't actually entirely been named yet. They sent it to me, Rich Jansen, and Rob McDonald, asking for comment on the draft letter. It's in regards to the Columbia River Treaty, and it's proposed to go to the State Department. And thank you for putting that up. The content is fairly generic. The first 2 pages are letter to Canada. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th pages are 3 pages of letter that would go to the Secretary of State. They're asking us as tribes for comment. They've sent it, I believe, to all 15 Columbia River Basin tribes, individually to each. So we have the opportunity to comment on the letter. I think it'd be reasonable to make a couple minor suggestions in it, but there's really nothing that's super offensive. They do always talk about U.S. tribes as though we're part of the U.S., and as the government goes, we're sovereign, so that's a little bit different. But otherwise, there's really nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's something I would advocate or spend a great deal of time on. If you want a recommendation, it would be that staff deal with it, make some possibly minor comments, and alternatively just say we have no comments. I think that's acceptable. If council does want to respond, then can obviously prepare some comments for you. They did ask for comments by the end of the week, the 4th.
if possible. Again, we received this yesterday, or 2 days ago, Sunday. So I guess just looking for some direction from you, how you would like to respond, if at all. And if you do want to respond, would you like staff to do it? Do you want to do it? It was sent again to staff, and well, that's enough. Do you have any thoughts or questions?
So I would like to review it and I guess reserve the right to make comments for Thursday's council session. This is the first time seeing it. Anyone else? Okay, if you can forward that to us, Stu.
I'll send that to all the council members. I'll be available Thursday, obviously, if there's something you'd like about it. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu.
Madam Chair, we have that in our email. Jen sent it out this morning, the letters.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May we go into executive session?